Hello, this is the Provoked Prawn, and this is a video to compare the Logitech G915 TKL with the Keychron K1 version 4. These are two fantastic premium 10 keyless keyboards with a number of really nice features and highlights to them. I've unboxed and reviewed both these keyboards separately, and I'll link to those videos in the description, but in this one I'm going to talk to you about the differences between them and why I picked up the Keychron K1 version 4 after using the G915 TKL for quite some time. The G915 TKL in white has been my favourite for quite a while now, and I did a video on why recently, and you can see it comes in two different colours. You can get it in white or black, but the white is certainly the better of the two. The G915 TKL has been my favourite for a long time for a number of different reasons, not least of which is that low profile design, the low profile key switches, the quiet response from the keys, and all the different connectivity options. The Keychron K1 version 4 though is also worth considering because it's available over half the price, so it's a lot cheaper and a lot more affordable and therefore more accessible and perhaps an interesting alternative. However, in terms of features, the G915 TKL certainly wins, and that's because it not only has the wired micro USB connection, but it also has a wireless connection with the Lightspeed wireless dongle. It has a Bluetooth connectivity, and it has a number of other highlights that include dedicated media control playback buttons, a really nice setup, RGB lighting, and insane battery life. You can get up to 40 hours of battery life on a single charge with the RGB lighting on, or 1124 hours with it turned off. The highlight for gamers though is that Lightspeed wireless connection, which gives you a 1 millisecond response time. It's low latency, so it's designed to work really well when gaming. Now, both these keyboards are available with a number of different switch options. The G915 TKL comes with GL Clicky, GL Tactile, and GL Linear, and the two keyboards have different options. I've compared these in sound and also feature sets, so I'll link to those in the description. The Keychron K1 is also available with three different choices of switches. This keyboard comes with a USB-C cable, and it has Bluetooth connectivity, but sadly there is no wireless connection. Although it is pitched as the Keychron K1 wireless keyboard, it isn't truly wireless, it's a Bluetooth connectivity. Now, it will work with Mac and PC, and is said to work with Android and iOS devices as well, thanks to that Bluetooth connection. However, I couldn't get the Bluetooth to work. You'll see there's a switch here to switch to it, and then you can theoretically pair it with three different devices using function key, and 1, 2, and 3. You have different options to switch between them, so you can actually pair it with multiple different devices and then connect them with ease. Unfortunately, I couldn't get it to pair with anything Bluetooth-wise, and if you search online, you'll find a few other people have had exactly the same problem. So this keyboard actually went from being wireless to being entirely wired, at least for me, which is a shame. However, there are a lot of good things to say about it. As I said, it's a lot more affordable for a start. It also has a really premium solid aluminium backplate. It's a good solid heft to it. It feels really good quality. You can see there are a number of different media controls and other things built into the key switches. You just need a function key press and then you can access all these other things. It also has some nice lighting effects that I'll show you in a minute. The G915 TKL comes with RGB lighting. You can see on the black variant that it isn't terribly bright, and if you want the best RGB lighting, I'd recommend the white one. I did a video on the differences between these two and showed off the difference and why the white one is preferable. One of the most striking things I found when using the black variant was if you turn the lighting off, the key etching was barely visible, which was a real shame. And also over time, the black keycaps mar a little more than they do on the white one. However, it is still a really nice looking keyboard and a really comfortable one and a very premium device. Really good battery life, good solid connection, comfortable to type and to game on, and a really nice setup. The black, however, is a little bit louder, and that has the clicky key switches, so they're a bit noisier, and I prefer the sound and the goodness of the white one, which has tactile keys, but you can also get linear. Now, for the Keychron K1, you'll see this version I have only has white backlighting. It also doesn't come with any software, so it's all hardware controlled. And there's a button on the top right of the keyboard that lets you switch between the various different lighting modes. There are a number of different really nice lighting effects here. It's worth noting that you can get an RGB backlit version of this keyboard. It is marginally more expensive. It isn't a shocking amount more. It's also worth noting that this keyboard also comes with a full-size 104 key layout instead of 10 keyless. So if you're not into 10 keyless, you can get that. Another thing that you will notice is there are a number of different keycaps here, and you'll see that some of the outer keycaps, including F5 to F8 and tab and caps lock all down the left side and on the right side, are darker than the ones in the middle, so you kind of have a gradient effect to it. It also has keycaps included in the box that I'll show you a bit later on to switch between Mac and PC setup, so you have different options in terms of that. The backlighting on it is very bright, surprisingly bright, even under heavy lighting for capturing video, which speaks to the overall effect and the quality of it. Now, the G915 TKL has been my favourite keyboard for a long time because of the comfort that it offers from that low-profile design. The low-profile housing, the low-profile keycaps, and the low-profile switches mean that it is very comfortable to use during the day. And the actuation distance is very short at just 1.5 mils. It doesn't require a lot of pressure either in order to actuate, and it's very comfortable. Now, one thing I noted in my original review is that the keycaps kind of look quite flimsy and that they might break if you weren't careful with them. What I have found though is that over time and over quite a lot of use in that period by either my wife or myself, the keycaps have held up just fine. As I said, the black ones marred quite a bit compared to the white ones, which was surprising, but they are still lasting and still working nicely. And the overall finish of it is still a really premium look and feel to a really nice design. I did a video on the white one to show what it looks like a year later that I'll link to separately. That is just shows just how well this thing stands up. It is a hell of a lot more expensive, but you are getting a very premium looking device, an overall wonderful bit of kit with really nice setup, really nice aesthetic, and a very comfortable setup in terms of the switches. You can see here a look at the GL tactile switches on the white version. As I said, 1.5 mil actuation, 2.7 mil total travel, 50 G of average force and 60 G of tactile force, and it just gives you a discernible bump. What I found about this is it's really quiet to use and very satisfying in that way. If you want to hear the difference between these switches, the Keychron and the two G915 TKLs, I'm going to do a video separately which is just the key switch sounds, so you can hear the differences between them and the overall feedback that you're getting from them, because that was one of the most important points for me when purchasing the Keychron, was that I wanted a keyboard that would be just as quiet and just as satisfying to type on as the G915 TKL, and actually this keyboard ticks that box. It's quite good, very comfortable, and very satisfying. Now, the reason for that is that I chose the red switches. So this keyboard has a number of options from Gateron's low profile switch setup. You can get red, blue and brown switches. The red ones have 50G actuation force, 1.5 mil of travel, 2.5 mil total travel, and they are linear and they're designed to be quiet, perfect for gaming. So basically they have roughly the same specs as the GL tactile on the Logitech. You can obviously opt for blue or brown switches if you prefer the clicky or tactile response from them. You want slightly louder keycaps for a more discernible click from your key switches. But for me, I wanted something quiet and stealthy. Again, as you can see, looking at the keycap design, they look quite flimsy and not terribly robust. However, I do feel that based on my experience with the G915 that these will probably hold up over time, as you'll also notice some nice stabilizers in the right places and a very good actuation and comfortable click from these as well. This keyboard comes with a few different caps included in the box, so you can change between the Control, Windows key and Alt setup for the Option and Command buttons that you'd expect to see on Mac, so you have those choices. You also have a orange escape key that you can see installed here, and an orange key for the RGB lighting, so you can kind of change some of the accents on the keyboard and sort of personalize it a little bit more. And I think that's nice, and obviously a benefit over the Logitech keyboard, which is very much just one keycap color and you can't really change it. It's very hard. I've not managed to do it to find an option to be able to swap out the keycaps with something else. You can't really get custom keycaps for low profile keyboards in my experience. I've not managed to see any. If you know of any, please leave me a link in the comments to let me know and prove me wrong. I'd like to see. As you can see, the difference between the keycaps here, put all the escape keys together with the white G915 on the side on the right, and you can see they're not even the same, so you couldn't even swap the keycaps between the two keyboards and fit them in the switches, which is a shame, but it does mean that you can't personalize these in other ways. However, I really like the finish on the keycaps. One thing that I did note when using the K1 after going from the G915 TKL is that there is a small gap between each of the keys that you'll see here, which is fairly standard. But what I actually hadn't realized when using the G915 TKL is that the keycaps have sort of outer edge to them, which means that there's a very small gap between the keycaps, and therefore it's easier to keep your fingers moving around the keyboard without feedback on your fingertips. I'm not sure if I'm getting that across properly, but what I mean is it's just a more comfortable and more accurate typing experience on the G915. However, they're both wonderful in terms of the design, the overall aesthetic, and the way your hands sit. And that was the most important part for me. Using the K1 has been just as comfortable and just as easy to type on once you get used to the setup changes and the differences between them. And it's a great looking keyboard. You can see that from these close-up shots and from the various angles. However, one thing that I do miss is the dedicated media controls on the Logitech keyboard. You have this very nice looking volume wheel, and you then have rubber tipped media playback buttons for things like playing, pause and skipping music. You also have buttons on the left hand side that allow you to turn on wireless or Bluetooth connections, activate game mode, which disables your Windows key and alt tabbing, and to change the brightness for the RGB lighting. Obviously turning the brightness off or down maximizes battery life and makes the most of that. Unfortunately, I can't comment on the battery life of the K1 because, as I said, I couldn't get it to work in Bluetooth mode. I tried hard resetting it. You can press the function key Z and J to hard reset it. I tried updating Bluetooth drivers. I tried pairing with different devices. Just couldn't get it to work. But as you can see, there are markings for on 1, 2, and 3. So if you hold the function key, you can put that in pairing mode and you can pair 3 different devices in theory if you can get it to work. And in practice, it just doesn't work for me. But in theory, it's meant to have a very good setup in terms of the battery life as well. It's meant to last for a good amount of time. And I'll leave all the specifications in the description so you can find out more about that. But unfortunately, my experience was that it wasn't great. Now, to end off this video, I'm just going to leave you with a little bit of a test to show the differences between the keycaps and the key switch setup and let you hear what it sounds like. Please, if you want to be immersed in a full typing experience to really hear the difference between all 3, then check out the link in the description to the other video where I'll do it without talking over the top or waffling on about how wonderful each of these keyboards are. Both keyboards are fantastic, but if you don't want to pay loads of money for the G915 TKL and you aren't bothered about being wired all the time, then the K1 is well worth considering. A fantastic keyboard for the money. This has been the Provoked Prawn. Thanks for watching. This has been the Provoked Prawn. Hope you found this video useful, interesting, hilarious, or otherwise. Take a look at these other videos that I think you might find interesting as well. And have a look at the description for links and other information you might find useful. Click that join button to see the benefits of being a member of my YouTube channel. And most importantly, have a great life.